So at this point, what I noticed when I watched him, there are certain things where in order for you to be able to go up against him, you, one, have to have a decent candidate. Kamala has to be the most boring candidate I've ever seen in my entire life, left, right, center. By the way, I think she's more boring than Jeb Bush. I think she's more boring than...
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there when you watch the interviews. Tell a story, tell me something, sell me the dream. Say when I was 6 years old, I remember that this... She can't do that. She can't tell the story part. And quite frankly, I think if there was a primary, if the Dems had a primary, she wouldn't have beaten Pritzker, she wouldn't have beaten Shapiro, she wouldn't have beaten Newsom. I don't think she would have beaten Whitmer.
What's up, everyone? In this one, Patrick Bet David dives deep into the dark strategy behind taking Trump down in this explosive segment. He doesn't pull punches, laying bare the left's calculated tactics and pointing out how weak candidates like Kamala Harris could cripple their own side. He also dissects how Trump's enemies have tried and failed to dismantle him, highlighting the desperation behind their strategies. This isn't just a critique of politics, it's a full-on expose of a system scrambling to maintain control. Let's break it down and get into it.
If you weren't a Trump guy and you were trying to litigate against him, in other words, reasons why he shouldn't be president, I'm going to come to the reasons you think he should be, but where would you go at in terms of legitimate criticism of Trump?
Well, I mean, think about, let's lay out what they've tried already. Okay, so if you hire me as a consultant, what is our last chance for taking them out the last week that we have left? We've done the DOJ. We've done the humiliation with him in front of his wife. We've done the pinning the kids against each other where you notice Ivanka's not that involved. Jared Kushner's not that involved. They kept talking about that deal, the $2 billion deal, so that pushed them away. Very good strategy on what they did to kind of show that the family's not together, but Trump's family, they went about it and they did their thing. We did the E. Jean Carroll, $83 million. We did the Mar-a-Lago is not a, $400 billion building. It's an $18 million. We've done all of that stuff. We've tried to burn him out. We've tried to, get his peers, the people he's hired in the past before, to say, look at his track record. He hasn't done a good job. COVID. You've tried misinformation. You've tried Russia. There's really nothing left. You've had 2 assassination attempts on him. So at this point, what I noticed when I watched him, there are certain things where in order for you to be able to go up against him, you, one, have to have a decent candidate. Kamala has to be the most boring candidate I've ever seen in my entire life.
Hold it right there. Boring doesn't even begin to cover it. Kamala Harris has been a disaster for political charisma. Forget about winning a debate. She struggles to even tell a compelling story. If she were in a primary, as Patrick points out, she'd get steamrolled by governors like Newsom or Whitmer, and this is who they're banking on. It's not just a bad strategy, it's embarrassing for the Democrats.
Right, center. By the way, I think she's more boring than Jeb Bush. I think she's more boring than...
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there when you watch the interviews. Tell a story, tell me something, sell me the dream. Say when I was 6 years old, I remember that this... She can't do that. She can't tell the story part. And quite frankly, I think if there was a primary, if the Dems had a primary, she wouldn't have beaten Pritzker, she wouldn't have beaten Shapiro, she wouldn't have beaten Newsom. I don't think she would have beaten Whitmer. I don't think she's top 5. At best, she's the best.
Which is why the
best
Democrats
candidate.
should have had, I think, a convention where they put it out and had a battle.
It's a big mistake, a big strategy for them. But at this point of the game, what to do, let's lay out the crazy stuff, the stuff you don't want to.
By the way, make sure to leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. This is a place for discussion. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Let's get back into it.
Creatively, you have to find a way to shut down the internet. You have to find a way to create power grids. You have to find a way. I'm talking really like the movie that came out with Barack Obama that, Leave the World Behind, where power grid, internet, this is the movie that they produced with Julia Roberts. It's not like we're talking about something that's not there. You have to do something in those battleground states with the counties that majority are Republicans to create the fear that people don't show up.
Let's pause. This is where things get insidious. Patrick's laying out a playbook of manipulation that feels straight out of a dystopian movie. Power grids, internet controls, delaying key counties, all designed to suppress voters and sow chaos. If this is what's on the table, it's not just politics, it's a war on democracy itself. And they accuse the other side of undermining elections. Talk about hypocrisy.
Because if you don't do that or delay, like Maricopa County saying we need 10 to 12 days, you have to do that with Pennsylvania, you have to do that with Georgia. If they don't do that, this is done if they don't do that. Because let's go and talk deception after he wins. November 5th, every odd says he's winning. Kamala's got 80 billionaires that are endorsing her. He's only got 50 billionaires, right? Kamala's got all of Hollywood and all these guys. He doesn't have those guys. He's got the podcasters. He's got the day-to-day people. He's getting the young male. He's getting the young African-American. It's the biggest plus minus ever since 1964. But there's one thing that we have to be thinking about. Let's go November 6th. Let's assume it's November 6th he wins, okay? We're in a room like this, and it's 10 of us, where all the establishment left, Democrats, and some of the establishment right, that want to do everything we can to now identify 2028, right? It's kind of like World Cup. You lost, we already got to plan 2028, what's going to happen, right? Or whatever, 2026. Today, the most hated man by the establishment, number one is Trump. Number two is Musk today. November 6th, you know who's going to be the most hated man November 6th? Number one will be Musk. Number two will be J.D. Vance. Number three will be Trump. Why? I'll give you my thoughts on this.
Let's stop here. This is the next phase in the game. Once Trump's era winds down, the establishment's attention will shift to the next challengers, Musk and Vance. Why? Because these guys are in it for the long haul, and their platforms are about shaking up the system in ways that terrify the elites. Trump may be a single-term president, but Musk and Vance represent decades of resistance.
The reason why they'll be over Trump is because it's a one-term president. They're not going to be worried about him. J.D. Vance, the way he's been doing interviews the last 2, 3, 4 months, the way he fought Tim Walz, where you walked away saying, this guy got Tim to like him, and they were able to build a certain level of camaraderie, and then he goes up with a fight with Jake Tapper, puts him in his place, then he's go with Dana, then he knows how to go with Theo Vaughn and laugh his ass off, and every different place you put him on, he's doing, well, I think he's doing Joe Rogan today, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to try to do the following, and this is what's going to hurt. Let's say you're J.D. Vance, mainstream media, CNN, whoever it is, and J.D.'s doing an interview. Hey, J.D., how do you feel about the fact that everybody now is saying that you're the president and you are telling President Trump what to do? You're not the vice president. Why are they going to do that? If they do that and it triggers something with Trump and there is the split, they win. That is the deception game that's going to be played to try to pin those guys together. And if the president can still find a way to edify, yet protect in a way where JD stays humble, and if JD can find a way to stay bulletproof and not buy into the fact that everybody behind closed doors is going to say, it's because of you, you're the one that's making it happen, all this other stuff, and he stays humble about it, then JD may win 2028 and 2032, I think.
This is the real fear driving their attacks. J.D. Vance represents a new breed of politician, one who can play the media, dominate debates, and appeal to everyday Americans. If they can't divide him and Trump, they lose. Patrick calls out exactly how the left will try to manipulate this relationship to create a fracture. Divide and conquer is their game, and it's clear they're already planning it.
Vivek's going to be there. I think a lot of people, I think 2020 is going to be very, very competitive. But I think that's the way you divide them. You have to go after, and the reason why Musk becomes number one is because if you put a bar and you look at the timeline for bars, Trump's is going to be 4 years, okay? JD is going to be 12 years, but Musk is going to be 30 years. That's why Musk is number one. That's why JD is number two hated man, November 6th, and third will be Trump. They're going to go try to find a way to destroy Elon and JD Vance because those guys will be around for a couple of decades.
When you had Trump on your podcast, it was a fascinating
Yes.
listen, but what did you make of him when you were interacting with him one-on-one?
One of the things about when you're doing business with when you're communicating with a businessman, there's a dealing, right? Meaning, if we do a deal together, and I'm paying you $2 million, okay, and you're asking for 3 years, but I put a bonus on the back end that if we do X, Y, Z, Pierce, you're going to get another $5 million, right? And you call me, your lawyers call me, my lawyers call you, they're going back and forth. And then it gets very tough with the negotiation. Let's just say we're 2 weeks away from finalizing it. We haven't signed a contract. I call you, I'm like, hey, Pierce, do you want to do this deal? Pat, I want to find a way to make this work. Okay, you say, do you want me at valuetainment? I said, of course I want you at valuetainment. No problem, fantastic. Let's find a way to get these lawyers to work. Lawyers do their thing, good, deal in, fantastic. Let's go on a run and take over the world, right? You're driven to get your $5 million bonus based on markers to hit. I'm driven to help you succeed. I'm not going to backstab you because I want you to hit those numbers. You know, you're not going to backstab me. You're going to defend me because you want me to make sure I give you the best team, the resources. That's not how it works in politics. When you look at politics, it's a very different game on what they're going to be doing. So they're going to.
Patrick makes it clear politics is not business. It's cutthroat, it's deception, and it's ruthless. This is why Trump's outsider strategy worked, but also why the system fights so hard against him. The establishment plays dirty, and they'll stop at nothing to protect that control.
it's a very different game that he's going to be playing. And that negotiation part, when you're going through, hey, how about if we do this? And how about if we do that? How about if we do this deal? It's a very different game. It's a very different game.
How significant has his podcast strategy been this time around to go and do you and to go and do Joe Rogan?
And that's what I'm saying. When you talk to him, it's a business guy. So his answer, if you push too hard and like, hey, here's what I like to do. What I'm asking you is I'm asking you specifically about this. And he'll say, what are you asking about? It's about this. Let's stay on this. My question is this. Okay, and he'll come back and he'll fight it or push back or do his thing. But you're talking to a man's man. It's business, it's transaction, it's negotiation. He's been in a lot of different settings for him to do that. I think the strategy they took, credit I think goes to Bobby Kennedy. I think Bobby gets the credit. I think Vivek and Bobby really took it to the next level.
This is the new wave of politics, breaking through the noise and going direct to the people. Patrick credits figures like Bobby Kennedy and Vivek for rewriting the playbook, bypassing the mainstream media, and using podcasts and alternative platforms to build momentum. It's a game changer, one the old guard isn't ready for.
When you notice Bobby was everywhere. He came in our podcast 2020, the first time around.
No, I've had him on 6-7 times.
I'm sure you've had him on many times. Well, he's been on many different places before he was with me. I'm just saying for us, he debated Alan Dershowitz. I'm like, this was great. I asked 2 questions. They went at it for an hour and a half. And then you saw Bobby on Joe the first time when Joe says, I'm not gonna lie to you. At first when I thought about you, I thought you were cuckoo. I thought you were this, I thought. And then I read the book. I'm like, no, this guy's actually legit. And then that podcast blew up. Then other people had him on. And then all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, you can actually, and he announced he's running for president. Like, wait, who's running for president? This entire time when you wrote this case against Anthony Fauci, this was your plan of running for president to go up against Fauci and the establishment? What a strength. And then boom, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 10%. And then Vivek comes up. Vivek's on my podcast. And I'm talking to him and I'm like, wait a minute. This guy wrote a book called about woke media. He sounds like he wants to run. He leaves. A couple weeks later, he announces he's running for president. That moment when he came on the podcast, he had 40,000 followers on Twitter, okay? And we were looking at Mike Pence. We were looking at everybody with the data followership. Fast forward a year later, 2 million followers, whatever his number is right now, Skyrocket. He's everywhere right now.
The end of this discussion hammers home the reality of modern politics. It's no longer about elections, it's about a systematic battle for control. Patrick shows how the establishment plans to target not just Trump, but the entire ecosystem of disruption. From Musk's tech dominance to Vance's political future, the game has changed and the stakes have never been higher. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts or opinions down in the comments below. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, really helps out the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.